Once I made it through the mountains in Alberta, I remember crossing into BC and it was euphoric. Like, I was so excited. I was so pumped that I was able to make it to the final province. In October of 2018, I took my camper, left New Brunswick with full intentions of reaching the West Coast.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands, strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law, hope they won't shoot me down soon.
Once I made it through the mountains in Alberta, I remember crossing into BC and it was euphoric. Like, I was so excited. I was so pumped that I was able to make it to the final province. I mean, I still haven't visited all the provinces and territory, but I made it to like as far west provincially as I was going to make it. And I pulled over just after the BC sign and just stopped. And I remember there was a couple of truckers there too. Just pulled off putting chains on or something, or taking them off, and the sun was coming up, just peeking through the clouds, and it was surreal because all the snow from the night before in Hinton, and it was quiet relatively, and I just looked around and looked at the trees and looked at where I couldn't believe it, where I had been and where I had come from.
So now you're here again, knocking at my door. A little too late for, I'm sorry for. The lights went out cause you kept cutting the cord, and I started to fade into your gray.
And I remember driving through BC was weird because the first couple days it was still cold, like coming through Prince George and onto like Kelowna and Kamloops, and it was still so cold. Like, a fire was necessary every day, every night, if I was going to keep myself warm. And eventually I made it to, I remember rolling through like Hope, BC and Chilliwack, and it started to warm up then. It was like getting on the other side of some of these mountains, and I remember I flew my drone in, or just outside of Hope, BC, and just this valley of mountains was so ridiculously beautiful that, and even the video and the photos don't do it justice, that it was so cool to be driving through this valley of a mountain. It was so beautiful. And then an hour or two, like, I keep driving, and then an hour or two or three later, you wind up in something like Chilliwack, BC, and the landscape is completely different. You've still got mountains, like the ice-capped mountains or snow-capped mountains visible in the distance, and there's always, like in BC, there's always mountains that you can see, but it's a completely different landscape. Like, it was like going through Arizona or through the Grand Canyon or something. Like, it was crazy to see some of these sites that I had never seen before. Like, rolling hills here in New Brunswick are nothing compared to the rolling hills in BC. The rolling hills in BC are like 10 times the size of the hills here in New Brunswick. And I made it from Hope, Chilliwack, all the way. I remember the day I made it to Vancouver. I was so excited. I was like, this is it. I pretty much made it. This is almost as far west as I can get. And I pulled up at the tiniest Princess Auto I had seen, and parked in the parking lot. And then Googled how long it would take me to get into downtown Vancouver, because I wanted to try it out and see if I could. But I also didn't. It was 4 o'clock or something when I got there, and I visited my friend Cassandra in Burnaby, and we chatted for a bit. But I was like, I'm not making it to downtown Vancouver. Like, unless I'm going with somebody, I'm not gonna make it. And I didn't. Like, I've still never been to Toronto or to Vancouver because of how big the cities are.